And welcome everybody to the Pulse of Fins Nation. I'm your host, Louis Sung, and I am joined today not by my co-host, Ron Caniff, because my co-host, Ron Caniff, is currently very sick, but he sends his best regards and best wishes and wishes us best of luck, as I have Alfredo Arteaga joining us at the beginning of the show, not halfway through the show or up until recently, a quarter of the way through the show. How are you today, Alf?
I am doing fine. I am doing great. I just finished doing the Rock Pile report, and that was fun. Those Bills guys, they're a good time, and they do a great job. They're on their podcast, and they're not they're not insane like a lot of people are on Twitter.
They're not snowball chucking Bills fans?
No, yeah, they would be the kind that would tell on the people chucking the snowballs.
Well, there's Ron. Hello, Ron. Yes, Buck Fuffalo. I'm all on board with you on that one there. A nice work around there. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Obviously, the Buffalo Bills did beat the Miami Dolphins at the very last minute, but we hung with them until the very bitter end, and we will get into everything that leads up to that and everything that happened in that game. But first, before we get too far into everything, I have to once again mention, as I always do, that this show is brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can pick up to 2, 3, 4, even 5 different six different players across professional sports leagues, or even in the college scene, if that's what you want to go with. You can go from the NBA, you can jump into the NHL, and of course you can always go into the NFL and see whatever promos that Prize Pick is offering. They have special Taco Tuesday promos that they're actually doing today. If you want, you can actually lower the yardage of Trevor Lawrence on Thursday by like 20 yards. I don't know. Actually, no, I think he missed that taco. But there are other tacos that are going to be coming out. And they also have things like Flex Friday, where they give you your money back if you happen to lose. They sometimes give you freebie picks altogether. Just not too long ago, they gave us Justin Herbert over 1 yard passing. You can't get any easier than that. So there's really no justification for not signing up at this point. I actually won $200 last night thanks to Prize Picks promo of getting 4 times the amount instead of 3 times the amount, just for the 12 days of Pixmas, as they are calling it. So with all that said and done, make sure that you go to PrizePicks.com, use the promo code 5, spell that out, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you first sign up. You don't have to do anything special. You don't have to bet it through. You just go ahead, you put in the $100 when you sign up, and they will match it just like that with a snap of your fingers. So, what are you waiting for? Go over there right now, prizepicks.com, start winning some money today. All right, so with all that said and done, Alf, let's talk about everything that happened in the Miami Dolphins versus the Buffalo Bills game. I'm sure you guys already went into it on the 3 yards per carry, and there's been a lot of stuff that's being talked about in OnlyFins as well, which I am very happy to be a part of. There's a lot of really good discussions happening there. And I'm also going to bring up some of the things that were brought up in the previous video that we did 2 weeks ago, not one, because I had to spend a little time with my fiance, who's visiting from Texas. Sorry. Not sorry, actually. I don't get the chance to see her very often, so it's always a distinct pleasure when I get to. So in any case, let's go into one of the first comments that were put in here, and I'm going to go ahead and share that now, if it will load, which it is not. That's always fun. Gotta love that. Okay, there we go. All right, so gonna put this up here. So our good friend Lenny, who says, thank you guys for another great show and for addressing the question regarding the watch party. Please keep you posted. Okay, yeah, you know what? I actually can. We are considering having a watch party. Maybe I think it might be the Jets game or the Patriots game. We're not sure which yet, but we are very heavily considering having a watch party. We haven't worked out the details yet, but we will let you know if something is coming up, and then we can always have a meetup at that point. All right. So once again, thank you very much for that comment there. And next one here, we're going to bring up this one next. And I just realized that I actually clicked off of this tab here. Okay, here we go. So go back to playing loose and maybe, just maybe, having 2 starting tackles out, and now Lamb and Fisher, both tackles, both now signed. Teron Armstead back this week. That's fixed. So this is referring to the Chargers game, because obviously this was the comments that were done after the 49ers, but I digress. The main thing here, though, is, and I think this is an excellent point, is that the Dolphins did seem more loose. They got back more into a rhythm against the Buffalo Bills. And this is interesting because it was away. It was in Buffalo, and probably the most hostile environment I have seen yet for these Miami Dolphins. I mean, we made the joke, but the fact that the fans were literally throwing balls of ice at the Miami Dolphins bench at any given moment, and they literally had to stop the game just to make sure to mention, hey, if you guys continue to do this, we are going to penalize the Bills 15 yards, which of course that turned out to be an empty threat because later on they started throwing balls again and it didn't do anything, but that's Buffalo. What you gonna do? So with all that said and done, what do you think, Alf? Did you feel like that it was more loose, like they weren't quite as uptight as they had been the past 2 weeks?
No, I think they just executed. I think they had a good game plan, and they pretty much executed every single part of that game plan, and they were ready to play. They weren't ready to play against the Chargers. They had a bad West Coast trip.
All right, that's fair. And I already have here, there's one comment here from Ryan Wooldridge. Hi, bro. Are you worried about the Packers coming to Dolphins in Florida? No, I am not worried. I am very much not worried at all. Not even a little bit.
I'm not. Here's the thing about the Packers. Okay, two things the Dolphins on defense do well. First of all, is play good at home. Second of all, they rush the passer well. Third of all, they stop conventional runs well. That's what the Packers are going to come here to try to do. So it's a good matchup. It's simple as that. Miami has a very good matchup against the Green Bay Packers. The only thing that makes them dangerous is that they do have a good running game, and Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. You can still find it for 1 second. I want to comment on one thing. There's this thing going around Twitter, and people, I guess, just keep repeating it. And if they keep repeating it enough, it becomes the truth. No, the game actually happened, and you could go search the play-by-play. They did not run it one time in the fourth quarter. They ran it 3 times. They only had 2 possessions in the fourth quarter. Okay, they ran it 3 times for 18 yards. Because I see Cap for Life saying that why did they run it just 1 yard in the fourth quarter? That's not true.
Well, maybe that's what it felt like, though, because it seemed to me that the Miami Dolphins, again, this thing, like somebody called it a fetish with Mike McDaniel. He does not want to stop throwing the football on 3rd and short. It's a very simple process. You're averaging 7-8 yards a carry with Raheem Mostert, and it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. Why aren't you running the ball? I don't understand.
They have a lot of creative runs that they could have gone to, and they just didn't. And it's something that they've been doing all year. Like Miami in 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2 is dead last in the NFL. They have a 42% conversion rate, which is dead last in the NFL. They also throw it a lot on 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2. They ran that little waggle slip with Durham Smythe. They've run that all year, and it's worked. They've had some success with that. Of course, they run it against Buffalo, and Buffalo is just in the perfect defense. They're in zone, and there's somebody standing right there in front of them. So, first of all, it was just a bad play call. It was a bad play call against the wrong defense. Maybe if you could check out of that, but in that circumstance, you probably can't check out of that because the play call's coming in, and you got like 12 seconds to get the play off because you're actually running clock in that instance. The simple thing is just get creative with the run game. You have 2 wide receivers. You actually have 3 because Cedric Wilson is a hell of a runner. You have 3 wide receivers that can carry the football. 4 if you want to add Trent Sherfield, who can also carry the football. You could get creative with those guys. You don't think you can get inside zone on 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2, and that's all it is. It's a lack of not really respect, but it's a lack of confidence in your offensive line getting you 31 and 3rd and 2 when the Bills know that that's what's coming. And yes, the Bills were actually trying to time our runs and calling run blitzes. On that play, the last 3rd and 2, they were not. They were in their conventional nickel defense, and they were not calling a run blitz. They were kind of playing us straight up. It's almost as if they expected a pass to come on that play. So, yeah, I think it was just a bad play call. It just was.
And I think that this lack of commitment that he has towards the running game, Mike McDaniel, it's coming back to bite Miami because now we can at least point out 2 games where we can say if they had run the ball more, if there had been a more balance. And the funny thing is that we can't even say balance per se, because we understand that the Miami Dolphins offense is more of a pass heavy offense. We get that. And if I'm not mistaken, I have to pull the stats back up, but wasn't it like 29 passes to 23 rushes throughout
Yeah,
the entire game?
that's where it was. 29-23. So there was some good balance. They lost some of the balance toward the end.
Oh, excuse me. It was it was 30 to 25. That's the official amount here. But Raheem Mostert, like, look, I'm looking at it now. It's not even just Mostert. Raheem Mostert, 17 carries, 136 yards rushing, 8 yards per carry. And then Savon Ahmed, not even Jeff Wilson, Savon Ahmed, 6 carries, 43 yards, 7.2 yards a carry, and the touchdown. And we're sitting here wondering why we can't run or I should say we won't run the ball. And it's very frustrating for somebody who could see how effective it's being, and regardless of whether it's the Bills or not, or anybody else. Against the Green Bay Packers, which is not as defense as potent as Buffalo's on their best day, and in my opinion, why would we not run the football other than Mike McDaniel just doesn't want to? That's the thing that I'm wondering about right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. If you look at the season, and you have plenty of examples. Okay, you have 3 times this year where they had more carries than what the league average is, and in those 3 games, it was the Jets game, it was the Cleveland Browns game, and it was the Buffalo Bills game. They had success running the football. So I don't know. I think I liked the balance in this game. Okay. 30-25 is probably what you want. You don't want to start phasing out Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. That's the team. That's how the team is built. You have a $30 million wide receiver. You got to use him. You got to use him a lot, especially in big games like this. And Jalen Waddle is really, really good. And if he's going to be open, you saw in this game, eventually they're going to screw up. Okay. And they actually screwed up a coverage. And when they screwed up a coverage, what was it? 67-yard touchdown.
No, it was and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Both passes.
Cap for Life again is saying no one said anything about running the ball once. I said we got 1 freaking yard. Cap for Life, they did not get 1 freaking yard. They got 18 freaking yards. Okay. So Google's your friend, my friend.
And Ron, even though he can't actually be on the show because apparently poor guy, he's sick as a dog, but he is contributing his own way. Here's the only ifs that matter. If Sherfield and Hill hold on to the touchdown passes and Sanders just keeps running through the deep route, we beat Buffalo handily, which, you know what? That's a very excellent point. A lot of what ifs that we're talking about here, those are some of the what ifs that are not. Forget Sherfield and Hill. We've all heard that what if. Like, if they had not dropped the passes in the end zone, that would have been a touchdown in Miami's favor, and that changes the point differential. The Braylon Sanders one, man, he stopped up. I guess he was expecting the ball to be underthrown. And for once, Tua actually hit him in stride, or at least he would have if he had just kept moving. I don't know what it is. Maybe they expect it to be underthrown, but
it's a terrible route is what it was. He has to run through that. The route's there for him. The ball's getting delivered. It's a hell of a throw, by the way.
It was.
And it was going to be on target. Okay, it was on the run. It was a hell of a throw. He was open. He had a step on his guy, and then he decides that he's just going to interfere with him for whatever reason. And Braylon Sanders, they like him because of his speed. He has great speed. He was a really good player at Ole Miss. Just a mistake. It was just I don't know what he was thinking. It was just a weird moment. It was a weird play, because it just popped for them. It was the kind of play that you try to get against the Buffalo Bills. And they actually had him in single coverage. They had a safety over the top, but the safety really wasn't over the top. If you watch the all 22 of that play, the safety's coming off because he thinks it's going to be a touchdown. And he's grabbing an angle to try to catch him before he gets to the end zone. He thinks it's a touchdown. So everybody on that field thought it was a touchdown except Braylon Sanders, who decided, I got to interfere with this guy first.
So now here's my next question for you then, because and this is something that's been talked about a lot in OnlyFins, which by the way, still what is it, three or $5 a month now, and
It's
for via
$3.
Discord.
Yeah, it's going to be on Discord, but that's for next month. We haven't made that. We've made the announcement that we're moving over to Discord, but we're going to have a free period at the start of January. But you could still join for $3 a month and then just move over to Discord. You could subscribe directly now to Discord. You don't have to go through Patreon and then get an invite. Now you just find us on Discord and you subscribe right there. So it's a one-stop shop.
I need to
So
make my switch over. Anyway, so I need to make my switch. But one of the things being talked about is how low must Wes Welker be on Eric Ezukanma if Braylon Sanders is still getting the call up over him and Sanders is making mistakes like that? Because I gave him a pass for the first time. Like, I understand it was a big game. His first game, he drops it. I'm like, okay, I understand. Oh, no, he fumbled. Like, I get it. He didn't mean to fumble. It's not like he tried to fumble. It was just a big moment, and he blew it. Now this one, though, and you start to wonder, is Braylon Sanders really that much better at the playbook than Eric Ezukanma? Like, is he just not understanding it? Is he not getting it? What's keeping him from getting on the field?
Uh, this is obviously a Wes Walker, decision because he said so before the season that he wasn't ready, and Wes Walker's not going to activate. Is not going to, vouch for you to be activated. Then he probably doesn't deserve to be activated. Maybe he doesn't block well, and maybe he doesn't know the depth of all the routes that he's being asked to run. You know, I know he's a playmaker, but I think that's the thing for next year. I don't think that's something that's going to happen this year. Maybe if Miami can clinch here in the next 2 weeks, maybe the Jet game is meaningless and they call him up to get him some experience. But other than that, yeah, I think it's a redshirt year. I said it was going to be a redshirt year in OTAs because I saw him in OTAs and he did not look like a guy that knew what he was doing. And if you remember, all he really has done is that he blew up in preseason.
And
Coaches don't care about what you do in preseason. They just don't. They care about what you do in camp and what you do in those practices. The games really don't matter. The games are just to implement what you learned all week during practice. But the preseason games, they're useless. And a lot of coaching staffs believe that, and that's the way that that's the way they run their practices and they run their preseason games. They just don't care.
and I understand, I get that, I do. But the physical talent, I understand that it's one of these situations where if you don't understand and they don't care, they want to know how you practice, they want to know how you understand it, you get all the details. But you would think that after all this time, he would at least start to understand a little bit better. Like, it's not been like, oh, it's just a week ago. Preseason is a long, long, long time in the past. He's literally had months at this point to start to understand the playbook. At what point do we start getting concerned that, you know what, maybe he's not gonna get it?
Next year, if he's not activated for week 1 next year, then yeah, okay, there's a problem there with Eric Ezukama. But yeah, this is a redshirt year. It happens all the time. I think this is for next year. And for as far as Eric Ezukama, yeah, just we're waiting on him for next year, not this year. It's a redshirt year. He's not going to play. He's not going to be activated. And who knows? Maybe this was the breakthrough. Braylon Sanders screwing up that route maybe is what's going to get him is what's going to get Eric Ezukama activated, right? But I don't think I don't think he's gonna make much of a difference anyway, because he's really behind 4 guys. So what is he gonna get? 4 or 5 snaps a game? Is that what we're like worrying about? So that's the thing for next year when they're probably gonna lighten the load as far as the wide receiver core because they're gonna try to move some money around to pay other people.
Well, Arizi brings up, then how did Skylar Thompson make the team? Because he seemed to understand the playbook pretty well, and he's a quarterback, so he has even more stuff to digest mentally than even Ezukama does.
Mm-hmm. I think we learned one thing. Cedric Wilson, there's a lot of routes that he's really good at. I think we're underutilized Cedric Wilson. It's just, I saw him play, and he's a good player. He was a really good player for Dallas last year. I think that's a guy that we've underutilized all year. I think he should have gotten much more run. And, hopefully, he gets some more run now. That was a great play that he made on the fade route.
Oh no, the over the helmet catch, beautiful. I was stunned when I saw that. I was like, that was Cedric Wilson doing that?
Yeah, that's the kind of player he is. He does that. He's a more effective Devontae Parker. I remember on 3 yards per carry when we signed Cedric Wilson, I said, okay, this is the signal that Devontae Parker is gone. They're going to trade him. And a lot of our listeners would say, no, but now they're going to keep him. They'll keep him. And I'm like, no, they just replaced Devontae Parker with a younger Devontae Parker that gets a little bit more separation, a guy who's up and coming. I think they've underutilized him. I wonder what they're going to do in the offseason. The truth is that he makes too much money to be the third wide receiver. So they're probably going to try to trade him for something somewhere. But, I think if you're going to find any failures this year on the offensive staff, it's that. They underutilized Cedric Wilson. He's a good player. They just haven't used him enough. But, you can't really complain. Jalen Waddle's had a monster year, and Tyreek Hill is headed for records. So, if you're going to complain about the third wide receiver, you got different priorities, right?
Well, Jeff Matricino says Eazy-E is too far down the roster, paid too much for everyone else. So now the question is, what about Gesicki? Why not use him? And I feel like with Gesicki, this is why I always pick the under on him on Price Picks every single time. I don't care how low the number is. I'm still picking the under. Mike Gesicki doesn't fit in this offense. They want a blocker. They want somebody who can block. And I will give credit to Mike Gesicki for trying his darndest to get good at it. It's just not his game. It's just not his game.
And he's had some moments as a blocker, but let's face the facts with Mike Gesicki as well. Whatever he gets in the passing game, it's whatever he gives you with a route, and then Tua has to hit him wherever he is. He is not going to make a play anywhere else other than in the end zone or wherever he catches it. He does not break tackles. He's been here 4 years. He has 10 broken tackles in 4 years. That Buffalo Bills game, there was a moment.
He's a basketball player. He's an acrobat.
Well, in that Bills game, there was a moment where Tua has to check down to Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki is 245 pounds. And the guy in front of him is a nickelback weighing 180 pounds. Okay? And behind him is 3 yards and the first down. Run that guy over. No, he gets tackled. And he gets tackled by a shoestring tackle. You're 6'6", 245 pounds. It should never come to that. You put your head down and you run that guy over and you go get the first down. It's as simple as that. And if you watch this game, there's plenty of examples of great blocking by Hunter Long. And maybe I'm thinking that, this was the game where where he's actually going to start taking over the position because he was good. Hunter Long was good in this game. Durham Smythe was good in this game. Even Tanner Connor played some snaps on special teams. Mike Gesicki, he's just not going to be here next year. They'll save that money. That money belongs to Christian Wilkins.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. He's like, at this point, he's the anchor of the defensive line.
Yeah, the only reason that they probably haven't signed, Christian Wilkins already is because you got to put some of that money in escrow. And they're just saying, you know what? Why sign him now when it's, first of all, it's in the season, right? So you give yourself a little bit of a leeway. Let's wait until, right before, in March. That way we clear Gesicki's money and we just hand Gesicki's money over to Christian Wilkins and that's it. And we're done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that works for me. I mean,
that's what's happening.
If Hunter Long can become the guy that people had speculated he could be, what was his ceiling? A poor man's Gronkowski. That was what I had been hearing about him. Like, if he can even get somewhere close to that, I'm satisfied.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be that good. He's had his own issues, but the main.
And I suddenly lost Alfredo. Alrighty. Well, that probably means he lost power or something. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue the thoughts of the tight ends position. By the way, Cap for Life, am I so quiet? No, it's not that I'm quiet. It's just that I tend to just let my guests talk. I want to make sure that everybody gets their chance to give their thoughts out, and that's what I was doing. But I will go ahead and say this regarding the tight end position. I personally feel like I had fantasies of signing Dalton Schultz. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to sign Dalton Schultz, and maybe we can get him as the new guy. And I welcome Alfredo back to the show. What happened, man? You lost power?
I don't know what happened. It crashed. StreamYard just crashed for me. But I just heard you say Dalton Schultz. He's going to be really expensive. Cowboys, that was their own issue too. The Cowboys, they franchise tag Dalton Schultz. He's in the same boat as Mike Gesicki. Now, can we just swap guys? Maybe.
Dalton Schultz can block a little, can't he?
Yeah, he's a good blocker, and he's a really good pass catcher. He's being underutilized in Dallas as well. I don't know if they're going to go that far. Dalton Schultz is going to be really expensive. I like Foster Moreau of the Raiders. Maybe the Raiders patch it up with Darren Waller, and they say, you know what? Let's trade. Let's let Foster Moreau walk. If they let him walk, he's going to be a cheaper get, and he does a lot of the things that the 49ers used to do and Mike McDaniel will want to do on this offense. And, that's an easy fix. It's going to be cheap because you're going to need money. You're going to need money to pay some of these guys going forward. And who knows what you have to do in the secondary to augment that. So, Dalton Schultz, man, at $15 million a year. I don't know about that. That's going to be expensive. That's a big, big price tag.
It is, but as we all know, the Miami Dolphins are actually pretty darn good at manipulating the whole salary cap situation. They're going to have to be with how much money they're going to pay the likes of Tyreek and them next year. So there's going to be a lot of fat trimming, which honestly I'm fine with. There's a lot of players on this team that we can kind of shrug by and be like, not particularly that important.
Well, the simple fact of the matter is, and I try to explain this to people, you got to look at a football team, especially in a salary cap sport. Okay, if there was no salary cap, none of this matters. Okay, but in a salary cap sport, you got to look at a football team as far as asset allocation and where you're using your money. Okay, for the most part, this team is using their money very, very wisely, but they have $40 million right now that is absolutely useless and doing nothing. Emmanuel Ogba's on IR. Baron Jones hasn't played yet this year. That's $40 million almost in two guys. So 30 actually this season. So $30 million in two guys.
Oh yeah.
How good would this team be if you had $30 million to spend right now?
Oh no, we could have gotten so many other depth pieces that would have fixed a whole lot of problems. We probably could have signed another corner somewhere. I don't know. Yeah. Is Janoris Jenkins still available? Like there are.
He signed. Janoris Jenkins actually signed with somebody.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he signed with somebody.
Okay, so then at this point in the season, yeah, that's pretty much everybody right now. Cap for we'll get Darren Waller. No, that's Gesicki, but better. But so it's like still
it's super expensive.
Yeah, and uber expensive, exactly.
This is Janoris Jenkins signed with the 49ers.
Of course he did. There's three teams that everybody's signing with just because they can. Kansas City, San Francisco, and Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Everybody smells the championship within their grasp.
So we're one of those teams, by the way.
I would like to think so, but I don't see players tripping over themselves, taking super discounts to come and join Miami.
Well, this is one of the guys that I would have liked, but it just didn't. But remember who Janoris Jenkins is. Okay, he's 34 years old. You don't know if he has it still. He was a man corner that used to gamble a lot. We're not playing that type of system anymore. The corners we need now, they need to tackle and need to be really good at playing a lot of different coverages, namely zone, because that's the future on this team.
And Cat for Life wants to know why do we have to keep shopping at the Dollar Tree? Why can't we go to the mall? We did this offseason. We went to the mall and spent our entire budget on Tyreek Hill.
Cap for Life, they paid Tyreek Hill $30 million a year, and Bradley Chubb.
They went back to the mall after that.
Yeah, and they paid Bradley Chubb $115 million a year, and now they're going to re-sign Christian Wilkins for like $80 or $90 million a year. This team does not shop at the bargain basement bin, but you're trying to be smart with the dollars that you're going to free up this offseason. Because, you could argue, this is just bad luck. They feel as if they were really smart because Emmanuel Ogba is a good player and Byron Jones is a good player. Neither one is playing. So you don't have that money. You don't have that money on the field right now. The goal is to get all of your money on the field next season.
I'm tired of being tired too, Cap. I really, really do. And apparently, Dolphin Don does not think that Bradley Chubb is doing exactly what he needs to be doing. Although I will say, and you pointed this out on OnlyFins as well, ever since Bradley Chubb joined the roster, the sack numbers for the Dolphins overall, not his sack numbers, not Chubb's sack numbers, but everybody else, has increased exponentially.
I wonder why.
Could it be that Bradley Chubb is taking a lot of attention?
No, they sprinkled fairy dust on our defensive line. All of a sudden, they started getting to the quarterback.
Yeah.
It's just a coincidence.
It's magical.
I got the numbers. Okay, they have 35 sacks this year. Okay, they played 8 games without Bradley Chubb. They had 15 sacks. They played 6 games with Bradley Chubb. They have 20 in those 6 games. So what's better, 20 in 6 games or 15 in 8 games?
That's a pretty big number there. And by the way,
and it's not like a little uptick. It's a monster uptick. It's from having no pass rush to one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. That was the difference.
And it's pretty significant there. And
that's what I would ask. What I would ask Dolphin fans is this: look, this season is ongoing. The pass rush is really good right now. But let's say next year, if Bradley Chubb gets, let's say, 5.5 sacks, but the team leads the league in sacks, and Jalen Phillips has 17, you don't think Bradley Chubb has anything to do with that?
No, it's pretty obvious that he does have a lot to do with that. And by the way, his as you predicted, and many people predicted this as well, is that Jalen Phillips has been the greatest beneficiary of Bradley Chubb's existence on this roster.
Yeah, because watch him in the game. Watch him in the game. If you want to rewatch the Bills game and see how the Buffalo Bills treat the defensive line of the Dolphins.
No, they spent. It looked to me like I didn't rewatch it, but watching it in real time, it seemed like the Bills were spending a lot of extra players staying back to make sure that Josh Allen was able to stand upright. There was very few times that there were only 5 guys blocking for Josh Allen.
Yeah. They kept guys in. They used an extra guy on Bradley Chubb a lot. They singled Jalen Phillips sometimes, and Jalen Phillips was making plays. So, yeah, he's been fine. You want him to get some of those counting stats up, I believe he has 8.5 sacks for the season. He could blow up any moment right here, finish up with 12, 13 sacks, and that's a pretty good year, But yeah, you want him to get those sack numbers up. You want them, you want those counting stats to look pretty on his side. But the pass rush is fine. That's not a problem. The pass rush is actually getting there. They have 3 really good edge rushers, and when they use Andrew Van Ginkel as an edge rusher, he's pretty good too.
And for the record, because I saw somebody asking for Levon, how many does Jalen Phillips have right now? Per the regular season, he currently has 7 sacks on the year.
Mm-hmm. So 3 to go, 3 games to go.
Mm-hmm. So, and now here's another question. And this is something else that was being talked about on OnlyFins as well. And I don't know how closely you're following all the jibber jabber that goes on there, because it's literally constant. Like even at 3 a.m, it's still going. So one of the things being talked about is Josh Boyer's status on this team. A lot of people, and to some extent myself included, are getting rather frustrated with the decisions that Josh Boyer makes, particularly on 3rd down. Jeff Matricino, I'm assuming I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm not. Saw a comment on Twitter about hoping the Jets fire Saleh. Is that how you say it? Saleh? Robert Saleh?
Yeah, Saleh.
Robert Saleh. Yeah. Robert Saleh. Okay. So, and we hire him as defensive coordinator. He's dreaming for it. My personal opinion, then I'll let Alf talk, is that I think that probably the more likely scenario, if anything, is that Saleh does not get fired by the Jets, because first of all, the Jets are still technically in the playoff race at this point. They're not ready to cut him they're not ready to release their head coach at this point. The other thing though is that Vic Fangio is currently working as a defensive assistant for the Philadelphia Eagles. So if Mike McDaniel goes to his old friend Vic Fangio and says, I want you to be the captain of this defense, I struggle to see why Fangio would say no to being able to just remake the defense in his own image, because he's even said straight up that he'd be open to returning as a coordinator. And since he already has a connection with McDaniel, it's honestly a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Yeah.
So with that in mind, yes, I personally feel like, and here's a cap for lifetime of serious talk. I've heard a name that was brought up today as a potential defensive coordinator, John Fox, as opposed to Fangio, who plays a 3-4. But the thing is, I think the personnel that Miami has right now would actually do pretty well in a 3-4. A lot of their pass rushers are like outside linebacker types who rush closer to out wide. Jalen Phillips can play defensive end. And then assuming we re-sign Melvin Ingram, which I am 100% on board with, by the way, I think he and Van Ginkel, they put Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips there, Christian Wilkins in the middle. I have a hard time looking at that defense and saying, nah, this ain't it.
Yeah, and by the way, not only our personnel, but the way we play our defense is more suited for a 3-4. Okay, so I would look. You're not going to start changing personnel, especially when it's personnel that you really like. You know what I mean? So I would look for a guy that's in that tree if they're gonna change, if they're gonna make a change. You know what I mean? If sometimes sometimes you look at it and you say to yourself, look, they had 5 injuries in the secondary. Is this what we're gonna do now? We're gonna be one of these teams that one unit doesn't look good and we just fire everybody on that unit. Look, the Dolphins play like a Fairbanks defense. Okay, if you look up what that is, all right, it's kind of like a 3-4 hybrid to 4-3. It's what New England has played for 20 years. Okay, it's what is usually kind of effective for the most part, especially to create turnovers because you play a lot of man-to-man coverage. I think, and I said so, and I believe that, and I think they're eventually going to have to go to this. Before the trade, and after the trade, Josh Boyer has the same exact blitz rate that he had before the trade and after the trade. He has too many injuries in the secondary. I think that's just a bad idea. I said after they got Bradley Chubb, okay, this makes sense. You have injuries in the secondary, you're going to play conservatively on defense. It makes perfect sense to play really, really conservatively. But maybe Josh Boyer is one of these guys who's kind of patient. His patience has run out, letting all these long drives and playing like bend, don't break. But that's the style of defense that they got to play because they don't have the horses to run that style that they used to play. And now you're spending a lot of money in your front seven. Let those guys get after the quarterback with 4 guys and then use coverage. First of all, that's what's effective against Josh Allen. Blitzing him is a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
Has always been a bad idea. It was a bad idea week 3, and it was a bad idea on Saturday. But I don't know how many times he's going to make plays against our blitz. Notice when we're really, really conservative against him. He just looked like, a normal run-of-the-mill good quarterback, right? When we blitz him, huge plays are happening all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Pass interference calls, 20-yard gains, 17-yard gains, So they got to dial it back. And, I think they're going to revisit this at the end of the year. There's still 3 games left. And I remind everybody they have 2 of those last 3 at home. Their defense is 2 defenses. At home is the second best defense in the NFL. They have, they will be ranked almost across the board in the top 5, and they're second in the NFL in points allowed. They allow 16.4 points a game at home. On the road, they're god-awful, period. They're one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and they're clearly the worst defense in the AFC on the road. So do they make a play here or there? Absolutely. Could they have won the game for us on Sunday? Yeah, on Saturday, absolutely. Like, you are allowed to make a play. Like when your offense gives you an 8-point lead, it's okay to make a play. They almost made one, by the way, because they got the strip sack, then they kicked the field goal, and then the very next carry that Josh Allen had, he fumbled. But that's the luck of the game. He fumbled, and Spencer Brown fell on it, and not Atlanta Roberts. And Atlanta Roberts and Spencer Brown saw the ball at the same exact time, but Spencer Brown was standing right next to it. So he just fell on it. We fall on that ball. We got the ball again at the 20-yard line. And I'm pretty certain we win the game.
Yeah, at that point, yeah, it's hard to imagine not having won the game at that point.
So
So
at that point, it's just 2 scores, and then it's too much to overcome for them. It's just too much. They just don't have the time. But that's the luck in the game. But it's okay to make another one. Like, you can make another play, and the defense just hasn't been good on the road. It's been a bad defense on the road.
So now I'm going to toss this at you, and I want to hear your thoughts on it because personally, for me, I'm conflicted on my decision, but I'm leaning towards one side. If you had to choose in a vacuum at this point, keeping Vic Fangio, going and getting Vic Fangio, and keeping Josh Boyer, who are you picking at that point?
Well, Vic Fangio is a legend in the NFL. He's one of the best defensive coordinators of all time. He has a background with Mike McDaniel, which is a good thing. Now for the bad news. He's told everybody that wants to listen, I am not coming back. I am retired. I'm an older man. He is an older man. Maybe he really is done with this. He doesn't want to do this anymore. I believe he owns the Super Bowl ring, right? I don't know if I got that wrong or right. I'm pretty sure he owns a Super Bowl ring.
I'm not sure, but I feel like I remember seeing an article that Fangio would be open to returning to being a defensive coordinator. I can't remember. Okay, here it is. Yeah, it was back in August. It was NFL.com, written by somebody by the name of Grant Gordon, who's a digital content editor. And Fangio told the St. Paul Pioneer Press that we'll see where things stand and develop and what's available to see if I'm a good match for somebody, but it's definitely a possibility, probably as a coordinator. So if he's saying that in August, did something change in the months afterwards that says, you know what, I changed my mind. I don't want to do it anymore. Or is this just, he's giving mixed messages?
Maybe he's looking for the perfect job. I think this is the perfect job. Like, if you fire Josh Boyer and you're out there looking for a defensive coordinator, this is a very easy job to sell. Okay. You have a head coach who's, a hot new head coach that kind of has the offense on lock, right? Like, it's kind of obvious he knows what he's doing. And that's why, I think it's offensive when people try to compare him to Adam Gase. Adam Gase was an offensive guru who came in here and brought us a 22 ranked offense. Okay. And then he finished up with the 24th, 25th ranked offense with the quarterback that he wanted to keep in Ryan Tannehill. This is a guy that came in with a reputation as an offensive guru, and they have a top 5 offense. Boom. Okay. So his reputation he came in with his reputation and he made good on it. I think Vic Fangio has to look at this job. First of all, he knows Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel has said that he wants head coaches of certain units. You see how much he defers to Wes Welker. If Wes Welker says, look, this guy's not playing, then Mike McDaniel's going to believe him. He's going to trust him. He's going to say, all right, that guy's not playing with Eric Azukama. So Vic Fangio, this would be an extremely attractive job. You get a lot of talent to work with, and you essentially get to take over half of a football team. So if he really does want to, do this job, I'm pretty sure if it's offered, he'll probably take it because it's a great job to have. I'm just not sure. I would need to hear it from him, and I would need to see him actually interview. But, I think they're going to be mindful about this as well. There's a lot of guys that they're going to look at. One thing is for sure, Mike McDaniel really likes the Jets coaching staff. There's some coaches on there that are kind of interesting. Tony Oden is a guy who's always kind of, deserved an opportunity to coach his own defense. He's on there. That's a guy. He's a former Dolphin, by the way. He's a former Dolphin coach. I believe
I do remember that.
Yeah, he was under Nick Saban, I believe. So, that's a guy that, and he
it was under Adam Gase as the defensive backs coach.
He was a defensive backs coach under Adam Gase. Okay.
And the safeties coach under Flores when he was in 2019.
Okay. So this is a guy that actually, stuck around through 2 coaches.
And by the way, he worked with Kyle Shanahan too, which means he worked with McDaniel.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he has a great reputation. Maybe that's a guy that they go after. There's a lot of good names. Okay, if I'm going completely out of the box, Nick Saban's defensive coordinator here in Miami was Will Muschamp. That guy knows defense. He knows how to coach it, and he's out there. Like, if you offer him a DC job in the NFL, I'm pretty sure he might even take it. So that's a guy I would explore. I think that you got House and LSU, but that's the college route, which is something that some NFL teams are doing. But yeah, I think that if they do replace Josh Boyer, he's going to go with somebody that he's really familiar with, because he's going to be turning over half of the football team to this person.
So probably someone like Bill Belichick is where he'd probably want to go back to, Boyer.
Maybe. I think another guy that you keep your eye on is Raheem Morris for the Rams. That it's getting stale over there. The Rams might be a team that is just going to look around and say, look, we're going to have to do kind of a mini rebuild. And it was just a year ago. 1 year ago, that Rams defense was awesome. A top 3 defense to go with an explosive offense. It kind of fits what we do, right? It's kind of what we want to be, right? I think Raheem Morris would also fit as a defensive coordinator if he's let go by the Rams, which seems likely in my opinion.
Speaking of coaches, El Rizzi and also Dolphin Don are both saying bring back Darren Rizzi. I would love to have Darren Rizzi back as the special teams coach. I'm sorry, I just have this affinity towards this man. Like he was always on the special teams, was always like super on point. This is not to disrespect our current guy, but I just feel like Darren Rizzi's on another level.
He's a great special teams coach, Darren Rizzi. I believe he's still
with the Saints.
Yeah. So yeah, he's a top guy. Like anybody would want him.
I think eventually he's going to get to be a head coach. I don't know who it's going to be with, but eventually he's going to get his shot.
Yeah, maybe in college. Like, he's a guy who would fit. So yeah, Darren Rizzi, absolutely. Like if you're going to start jettisoning coaches, the thing is, there's 3 games left. I expect them to finish off pretty well here. In fact, I kind of expect them to win all 3. And if they win all 3, then they're meeting every single expectation. And obviously, if they win all 3, their defense played all right. Let's see how they finish up. Before we start firing coaches.
Yeah, that's the thing. I titled this video that the Dolphins are still a playoff caliber team. We spent pretty much the whole show talking about how we're going to improve the coaching staff next year. And even in spite of all of our frustrations in the fan base, the fact that we've lost 3 straight, we're still a playoff team. I cannot find a single scenario aside from a total meltdown that the Dolphins don't win at least 2 of the next 3 and make the playoffs.
Yeah, pretty much. You want to see a meltdown? Jets are currently under a meltdown. Okay, and they're playing the Jaguars on Thursday. That's an important game. Jets lose that game, essentially the Dolphins are kind of in. All they got to do is just beat Green Bay, and you're setting yourself up. You're just setting yourself up. You know who the Patriots play? The Bengals. You know who the Patriots close the season with? At Buffalo. They're doomed. Okay? You're going to be in the playoffs. It's a matter of what seeding, and seeding matters this year. I've run the scenarios a million times. You got to win all 3 to get the 5 seed. You win all 3, you will get the 5 seed. You get the 5 seed, you're going to get a team that's just absolutely limping into the playoffs, probably Tennessee.
And what is your confidence level we do that? Me personally, Jeff, my confidence level that we do that, again, I am not worried about any of the 3 teams. I'm not worried about Green Bay, and I know that Cap for Life mentioned earlier that I should be more worried about Matt LaFleur than I should be about Aaron Rodgers. Listen, at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is the one throwing the football to absolutely nobody, because that's who he has left. Nobody. I don't know if you noticed that Sammy Watkins just got claimed by Baltimore. So I guess they figure he's got a little bit of something left in that tank.
I saw him play this season. He has nothing left. He's done. He's absolutely, there's nothing there. Right. It's over with.
But in any case,
I feel good about this game. Look, LaFleur is going to try to do what most teams try to do, trying to keep us off the field by running the football. We're good at stopping the run. Okay, we should be
against
fine
running backs.
Yeah, against running backs.
Against running backs.
And last I checked, Aaron Rodgers is not going to be taking off for 40, 50-yard runs. Okay?
Definitely not. No, not at his age. He could run. He used to be able to run a little bit. I think, doesn't he have like a punctured lung or something? Like, what's going on with him? Like, he looks like his whole body is on the injury report.
He broke his thumb early in the season, and he played through it. So, that's why he had some issues throwing the football earlier in the year. But, we shouldn't worry about them.
I'm not worried about them. I'm not worried about the Packers. I'm definitely not worried about Mac Jones and the New England Patriots. Like, they have a better shot if it was Bailey Zappi. That's what I think at this point.
But I don't think they're gonna go to Bailey Zappi. Like, I think they're already stuck on this, and they're like, we're not doing anything.
Yeah,
but we're keeping Mac Jones, and we're gonna play Mac Jones.
Yeah, so that's a Belichick. That's a Belichickian.
And you know what? And a lot of people are saying, "Oh, in the offseason, they'll go after Jimmy G." First of all, Jimmy G will not want to go to New England. Okay, there's not a chance in hell he wants to go to New England. You got to remember what happened there. He was promised the job. Okay, and Bob Kraft came in and said, "You are not getting rid of Tom Brady. You're getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo," and they traded Jimmy Garoppolo. So you think that he's going to go back willingly to New England? No, he's not. Okay. Jimmy G is much more likely, like maybe the Jets. Like, that's possible. Like, he could go to the Jets. And
the Jets are the Jets willing to say Zach Wilson is a bust yet? I'm not convinced.
That's another thing. Are they going to say he's dead in the water, or are they going to get him some help in the offseason? By the way, their wide receiver that they drafted in the first round, Garrett Wilson, he is really, really good. Like, he's really, really talented. They have a talented offensive line. When they get all the running backs back, when they get Breece Hall back, they might just look at the season like that next year, and they're going to say, look, he's going to get all his weapons back. It's a clean slate. Zach Wilson is our guy, which is a good thing for us.
Please do that. Just please do that. And if not, they still have their three-headed hydra. Just, is it going to be Joe Flacco? Is it going to be Mike White? Is it going to be Zach? I don't care. All three of them can go kick rocks. They're not beating Miami again. Like, if we have Tua and we have our offense out there the way that it's supposed to be, the Jets are not beating us a second time. I refuse to believe it.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. No, I think the Dolphins do win all three. They're cycling up. That performance against Buffalo beats every team in the NFL.
Except for Buffalo.
Except for Buffalo in the cold. But, hey, man, that's the competition. Look, you played them twice. You went 1-1, and the final score was 51-50 Buffalo. You lost by 1 point for the season.
Mm-hmm.
It's as close as you can get it, okay?
Right.
How was it last year? Last year was 11-61. And you got blown out twice. So it's competition. Like, from now on, that's the rivalry. Every year you're going to play them twice. You're probably going to split, And if you win both, you're probably going to win the division. So, next year, the mission is pretty simple. And the mission was simple this year, too. Although Buffalo kind of complied, because we lost to the Jets, but Buffalo also lost to the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
And then we split. So there was no dominant team in the AFC East this year.
No, it's still not dominant. Like, I'm sure that there are some scenarios. Like, I'm going to look up the AFC East right now.
Yeah, we win these last two games, we're going to end up 4-2 in the division. But, the only reason we're going to end up 4-2 is because we got a sweep. We got the first game against Buffalo, but we lost to the Jets. Had we finished 5-1, which means we had beaten the Jets, or we had swept Buffalo, hopefully had swept Buffalo, we probably would still be in the division conversation right now, even with a loss to the Bills. But it's not.
And no cap for life, Pro Bowl player Mac Jones does not scare me. Not even jokingly, he doesn't scare me. It's so crazy. Like, people legitimately thought Mac Jones was a Pro Bowl player.
They didn't think he was good. They didn't think he was good.
Isn't it the players who vote on who gets to be in the top 100? And Mac Jones was in it last year.
Yeah, but you gotta understand how players vote for that thing. Andrew Van Ginkel kind of let the cat out of the bag last year.
Oh.
Yeah, he said that he got his ballot and he just filled it out like he didn't care. Yeah.
So he just picked whoever he wanted. It's I'm just gonna close my eyes and poke out the
Yeah,
holes.
so that kind of tells you what people think about those top 100 lists. They're all bogus. Mac Jones wasn't that good last year. Period.
No,
He just wasn't.
he was bad, man. Like if you're gonna put Mac Jones in the top 100 players, then Tua definitely belongs in that same discussion. And we both know that no one's gonna put him up there. They should put him there. Anybody who has any lick of football knowledge, if they're being honest about it, even a little bit, Tua should be in the top 100 this year.
Well, no, he'll be in the top 100 for sure. Like, there's no doubt about it.
And
Tua will be in the
we
top
already know
100.
he's in the Pro Bowl for sure. We know for sure he's in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, well, I don't think people are appreciating the type of season that Tua Tagovailoa is having. He's having the second best season for a quarterback in the history of the Miami Dolphins. And the Miami Dolphins had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, Bob Greasy and Dan Marino. And Dan Marino had a pretty big career. He had a pretty awesome career. Well, guess what? This quarterback's having the second best season. The best season ever was 1984. Dan Marino.
Yep.
But he's having he has a legitimate chance, okay? Because all he needs is about 240, 245 yards a game for the rest of the year. And he's short 6 touchdowns. What if, Tua, and this is normal because all he needs is 6 touchdowns in 3 games, okay? He does that and he gets the 245 yards a game for the rest of the year. He's going to throw for 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns against 5 picks, and he missed 3 games.
That's the crazy thing. He can do all of that.
So imagine had he had like a hot streak in those 3 games, and he threw for like 320 in each game. And before anybody says, "Oh, that's impossible," well, he threw for 300 yards 5 consecutive games this year. Okay, so he could have easily had a hot streak for 3 games. He could have had 5,000 yards. So no, he's a top 100 player. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's had a monster year. And in a year's time, you're paying him.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I don't know why there's the doubts that are still there with Tua. I know that there are some people who are still going to feel that way, and we will get everything done. We're not done yet, Cap. We're not done yet. If you're saying goodnight because you got to go, okay. Well, thank you for joining, but we're not done just yet. There's a couple more things that we still got to take care of. We still got to do our predictions and everything, but as I'm still trying to make sure that we get this pointed out, I'm just pulling it up here real quick. Give me a moment. I need to go ahead and talk about what the current projections are for our Prize Picks players here as far as the Dolphins go. And again, prizepicks.com. You can use your promo code 5 and you can match up to $100 on your initial deposit, and you can make some bets on these. So let's go into it one by one because there's only 3. It's Tuesday. There's not a whole lot to go on. They don't put Trent Sherfield and Mostert and stuff like that until they see the injury report. It's always going to be these 3 guys, at least at first. So we'll go into them one by one. First and foremost, Alf, we have Jalen Waddle here, 63.5 receiving yards. Does he go over or under? Because based on what?
Over. He looked fast on Saturday night. He looked like he was back. So over.
So definitely over on him. So the thing with the yards is I'm always concerned because he can make a big play, but there's also the possibility that he just doesn't catch many passes with Waddle because we all know Tua has a favoritism with Tyreek Hill, which is understandable. He's Tyreek Hill. So,
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. That's why I tell a lot of people that, we should have run it 100 times in that game. Well, okay. If you run it 100 times, that means that you're not giving Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle the ball. Are you sure you want to do that again?
Mm-hmm. And here we have the next one here. Tua Tagovailoa. Does he go over or under 255 yards?
He's at home. It's an over. It's 300 yards. He throws for 300 again.
Now, here's the thing, though, because Cap for Life mentioned that the Bengals have a really solid secondary. You don't think that gives Tua some issues?
What, the Packers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Packers have a really good cornerback in Jair Alexander, but they're slow. They have a slow secondary. They're vulnerable. We could beat them over the top. They're going to have to play very, very, very loose and conservative coverages against Miami. They just don't have the team speed back there.
Okay. So, yeah, they can't. I'm inclined to agree with that. Like, they can't keep up with that sort of thing. And then finally, of course, Tyreek, does he go over under 83.5 yards receiving? He's kind of missed that mark the last couple games. So I'm a little shaky when it comes to yards with Tyreek.
Right. He would have easily had 83.5 had he just caught the ball in this last game. Okay. I think he's due for a big one. Uh, I think he goes over. That's a comfortable over with Tyreek Hill.
I wish I had your faith. I don't. I can't go that far with Tyreek. I just don't think that the yards are going to be there. I think he'll catch a lot of passes, but I don't know about actually getting
He's
the yards.
sniffing 2,000. It's time.
I know.
He,
It's like
he needs to average somewhere on 135. So I don't know. Like, this is probably his last chance to make a serious run at 2,000 yards.
so. He could. I'm not saying he can't do it. It's just that I am not willing to bet money on that number. So that's the difference. If it had been just like a gentleman's bet, I would have said, sure, why not? He'll do it. But I always bet like $20 every time. So I don't want to. I don't want to bet $20 on Tyreek for that high of a number. All right. Now we'll go ahead and finish up here by doing what we always do at the end of every show, because again, I'm trying to cut it down back to like around an hour, not 2 hours like we have been doing. So with that said, let's do our overrated, underrated, and MVP of the game. We know how this game works. You choose the overrated guy. And Ron, I see that you're here still. You're asking Alf. Okay, we'll address this first because it's you, Ron. What are your thoughts on McDaniel sassing Barry, the not as inviting with information comment?
I saw the that moment, okay? And he got his point across, but I don't think he was mean-spirited. It wasn't like Adam Gase. You know? So I
Well,
found it.
I'm a little lost on what's going on. I didn't see it because I've been at work all day. What exactly
Well,
was going on?
it's very simple. Mike McDaniel reads everything, okay? And he talks to everybody. He talks to every single beat writer. He's talked to me, okay, when I was in camp, okay? And he gave me a lot. You know, he was very forthcoming with information with me. Only after I reinforced, this is off the record. I'm not gonna say any of this stuff,
Right.
you know, because he kind of looked at me like, "Why are you asking me these questions?" And then when I told him that, he was like, "Okay." And then he opened up a little bit. Barry wrote something that evidently pissed him off. And what he what he wrote was that Brian Flores used to be into defensive meeting. I mean, to every single meetings. He used to peek into every meetings, and he used to micromanage everything. And Barry Jackson kind of like hinted it would be a good idea if Mike McDaniel started micromanaging again.
No, I
First of all,
disagree.
that's an awful idea. Okay. The reason this works is because he doesn't put his hands in everything. He's in charge of the offense. He's the boss of the offense. He's doing a good job there. Leave it that way. And he already tinkered with it. Remember, they started the season off and they were like, they were trying to figure out how the hell they're going to run the offense because it was only like 2 guys that were responsible. He decided, I want to have my little group of 4 people, and these are the people that I'm running the offense with. And those people are John Embry, who's the assistant head coach, Darrell Bevell, who's he's the quarterback's coach, who deals with Tua Tagovailoa, and Frank Smith, who bounces stuff off of him back and forth. That little group has worked to give you a top 5 offense this year. Keep it that way.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Like, believe me, I love Barry, but why would you want McDaniel to get involved in all the other stuff? I'm still trying to get him to wean himself off of the whole pass on every down concept. I don't need him to get more stuff in his brain.
Yeah. Just stay out of it. And you can tell he was pissed off with some of his coaches, and he's a guy who will snap at a coach, but with good reason.
He snapped at Josh Boyer more than a couple of times. We've already seen it. We've literally read his lips and said, get this fixed.
Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't, I didn't think that he was mean-spirited with it. I've seen a coach get really mean-spirited with a media member. I've seen Brian Flores snap at somebody. I've seen Adam Gase be very, very, mean-spirited with somebody. I saw Adam Gase say something one time to a media member that when I heard it, I was like, oh my God. Like, it was really, really insulting. Okay. I'm not going to repeat it because once I repeat it, it's all over Twitter. Okay. Because people know who he said it to.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm
So
sure that if you even, you don't even need to name names. I'm sure you could make the comment and everybody would be able to connect dots.
yeah, because there was a time where it was actually really, really, uh, it was showing up in every press conference. Like these two guys just didn't get along.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say this: Adam Gase told a media member once, "I'll invite you to my office. You explain to me what we're doing on offense, and if you're right, I'll resign."
Wow.
And I know what he meant by that, and he was right. Adam Gase was right. Okay, Adam Gase may have had his own problems, but he wasn't an incompetent fool. Okay, like he knew what he was doing. He just had a bad character
He
for
was
a
an
head coach.
egomaniac.
Yeah,
That I still believe that that's what ultimately wrecked Adam Gase. It wasn't that he doesn't know football; it's just that he doesn't know how to get out of his own way, and that's the only way that I even like when I've said to some point I need McDaniel to show me he's not Adam Gase when we were in the middle of that losing streak, but only in the sense I know McDaniel knows what he's doing, but he needs to prove that he's not as stubborn as Gase, which he has. He's running the ball more. He's not running it as much as I'd like to in certain scenarios, but he has proven that, okay, you're definitely not Adam Gase in the sense that you're not being stubborn about your decision making. That was what ultimately ruined Adam Gase, is that he thought he was the smartest guy in the room and he acted like he was the smartest guy in the room. And that's what wrecked him. Not that he doesn't know football, is that he doesn't get along with people.
and he had a lot of bad luck down the stretch of his time down here. You know, a lot of bad injury luck.
Well, I mean, McDaniel, you could argue, is having a lot of bad injury luck too. Not on his side of the field, mind you, but still,
Yeah,
he seems to be adapting a lot better to it than Adam Gase ever did. So, let's go ahead and do our picks here. I'll go ahead and do mine first. As far as my overrated player against the Packers, I'm gonna go ahead and say, as much as it pains me to admit it, I don't think Raheem Mostert is going to get as many carries as I'd like him to. I really liked what we did against the Buffalo Bills. He got 17 carries, again, 136 yards, 8 yards per carry. I feel like that. I feel like, me personally, I think Mike McDaniel is going to try to smell the blood in the water with the Packers. They did just beat the Rams, but beating the Rams right now doesn't mean a whole lot. They're gonna.
Rams are awful.
The Rams are so bad. It's like went from Super Bowl champs to the scum underneath my shoe.
Yeah, they're just they're awful.
This is what happens when you sell your soul in free agency. It's like you win once and you're never going back again. But in any case, I feel like Raheem Mostert's not going to get as many carries as I'd like. That's just me. I think he's going to be a little bit overrated. He's not going to get the yards that I want him to. My underrated player, I'm going to go ahead and say that. I'm going to go ahead and say that Kader Kohu is going to do a lot better today. I'm not saying that just because he's going to be not having as much of a competition. Obviously, the Packers don't really have a whole lot as far as weapons go, but it ultimately was a few mistakes on Kohu's part that a couple times burned Miami in probably the worst moments. The pass interference call, like, you can argue whether or not it should exist or not the way that it did happen, but Kohu did get called for that play, and that is ultimately what gave the Bills that last bit of oomph to put them over the top to win that game. It didn't do Miami any favors, but I think Kohu bounces back. I think he probably has. I'm going to say he's going to have the best game of his season against the Packers, and it does have something to do with the fact that Packers don't really have a whole lot to cover. And my MVP of the game, I just feel like the MVP. It's very stereotypical at this point, but Tyreek. Like, he's just going to absolutely wreck this Packers secondary with that raw speed. You mentioned it yourself. The secondary, as much as the Packers can do, they can't keep up with the horses that we have. They're just too fast for them. So I'm going to say Tyreek's my MVP. And I think my score, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that Miami puts up 34 points. And I'm going to give the Packers the privilege of scoring 24, just because I'm not 100% convinced that the defense is going to be able to hold up. Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers to some extent, injured as he may be. They did just put up 24 points against, again, the putrid Rams, but our defense is not doing a very good job of stopping teams from scoring points at this current moment. So I'm going to give the Packers 24, but that still gives us a double-digit win, and I'm going to say Miami wins this game, and it's not going to be nearly as scary as the final score would seem to suggest.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. As far as my underrated player or overrated, you want me to start with the overrated?
You can go whichever order you like.
Okay, I'll go with my overrated. My overrated, it's too easy to just say Mike Gesicki every single week and then be right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why I don't pick the over on him ever.
So I'm gonna say, it's a great question. I think by the way, we haven't even mentioned him in the entire show, but Jason Sanders is back. Maybe. He was awesome in that game against the Bills.
Listen,
he was awesome.
Did he kick a 50-yarder?
Yes.
Oh, he did.
47. It was 47. It was 47.
Nope. Can't give it to him yet.
Did he kick a 50-yarder? That's a great question.
Kick a 50-yarder, and we'll talk.
I know he hit a 47-yarder. I'm not sure he hit a
47-yarder was his longest. So no, he still has to kick the 50. Kick a 50-yard field goal, and then we'll talk.
All right. So I'm gonna say overrated. Man, that's a great question. I'm gonna say Jalen Phillips. Where everybody's expecting him to go absolutely crazy in this game. David Bakhtiari might not play. Okay. He did not play against the Rams. He's one of the best left tackles in football. Okay. If he doesn't play, you know who draws that assignment? It's Bradley Chubb. So Bradley Chubb will be going against not David Bakhtiari, which means I think he's going to be the underrated player. I think as soon as everybody starts talking about him and everybody's going to start saying, oh, he's not doing this, he's not doing that, that's when he's going to show up. I say he gets 3 sacks. And
well, I feel like
he makes the difference in the game.
Maybe I'm misinterpreting, though, but I feel like the Packers have done a really good job of the whole next man up mentality as far as their offensive line goes.
Although they've gotten him hit a lot. Aaron Rodgers has taken a lot of hits, including last night. Last night, he took some big hits.
And that's without Aaron Donald. They don't have Aaron Donald right now, the Rams, correct?
Yeah, they don't have Aaron Donald. And then my MVP is going to be Tua. He's going to be right back to where he was. I say he gets 3 touchdowns. He's going to stay right on that average, trying to get to those 30 touchdowns and those 4,000 yards. I think he throws for like 260, 270. And I think they spread it around as far as running the football. Give Mostert like 52 yards and give Jeff Wilson like 65. And that'll be.
You think Wilson plays this time?
I think he does. They kept saying that he was really, really close to playing against Buffalo. But Mike McDaniel said that he was, that Jeff Wilson is one of these guys that you have to like protect from himself because he's always going to say, yeah, I can play.
Well, Teron Armstead is doing the same thing.
And it's weird, right? Because Teron Armstead looked awful against the Chargers. If you watch him against the Bills, he looked great against the Bills. So maybe he's getting a little bit better.
They pumped a ton of morphine into him. But I digress. Actually, you know what? That's something I now that I think about it, that's something I want to talk about before you give your ultimate prediction. Salvon Ahmed got the call over Myles Gaskin.
Yeah. He's and he looked good.
He looked really good. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he scored a touchdown. He had a couple of big runs. They used them on some of those creative runs that they have in the playbook. Yeah, he looked really, really good. But that's the calling card of this coach and this team. This system is supposed to make running backs look good. You only have to be one thing. You have to be fast. If you're fast, you could play in this system as a running back. You know who's not fast? Myles Gaskin is not fast.
Nope.
So that's why Salvon Ahmed got the call. As far as a score, man, I think it's going to be a big one, a big score. I say Miami 34 and Green Bay 23.
Okay, so you gave him an 11-point win.
Yes.
Okay, because I see Ron in here. He's still the co-host. He's got Miami at 29 and Packers at 24. So that's pretty much as close. And I actually did get a text from Chad when I was talking to him earlier. His score prediction, for anybody who's wondering, Miami 31, Green Bay 17. So he doesn't even give them 20 points. And it's really possible that could ultimately happen. It's not. I'm not saying here that they're definitely going to score at least 20 because the Dolphins defense is that bad. Listen, Green Bay's offense right now is very hit or miss. You shut down Aaron Jones, and who does Aaron Rodgers have left? Alan Lazard, Mercedes
Yeah,
Lewis.
yeah. When they play well, and they haven't played well often this year. When they play well, they're playing off of those two running backs, Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. AJ Dillon's a really good pass catcher, and he's the power back. Okay, so when they're playing well, they do that. Okay, AJ Dillon left the game with a concussion, but he's cleared already concussion protocol, which means he's probably going to play on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So you shut them down, and that's what Miami's kind of good at. Like Miami's good at stopping conventional runs. They were good against Buffalo, stopping conventional runs. They've been good against everybody stopping conventional runs except one team, the Jets. Okay, and that was mainly because there was one very, very long run that's kind of skewed the stats.
And also the immediate ejection of Teddy Bridgewater, I'm sure, had a lot to do with just screwing up their entire equilibrium.
Yeah, that too. So that's what the Dolphins do well. They stop conventional runs well, and they rush the passer. It's a good matchup. Like this is set up for them. You know what's an even better matchup? The Patriots. Like the Dolphins are actually getting great matchups for the last 3 weeks. Like these teams are built to get beat by Miami.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. Green Bay secondary is good. Yeah, okay, it's good, but it's been injured this year, and they've given up points. And they just finished giving up 5 yards of carry to the Rams. So
if I had to pick one team that I was the most scared of, and scared is air quotes, but I would just have to say the Jets. I feel
out
like
of the last 3, yeah, because they have a really talented defense. Their defense is really, really good. But they've also had some injuries too,
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, the Jets play the Jaguars on Thursday, then they play Seattle on the road. They could be completely out of it by the time they come down here. And, they could be out of it and tanking, okay, by the time they come down here. So
you don't think they're going to try to do everything they can to wreck our playoff aspirations?
they could try, but there's nothing they can do about it. I think Miami's going to clinch by the time that they play that game. They're going to play that game for seeding.
Fair enough.
And I'll make a prediction. That week, everybody's going to be debating, should they be sitting everybody and not care, or should they be going all out to get the 5 seed? And I would say go all out and get the 5 seed.
Oh, no, yeah. I can't say that I can't see it because Mike McDaniel did decide to sit all of his starters in the second half against the Houston Texans, which, by the way, I still don't agree with that decision, like not even a little bit. That was too early for him to do that. And it really, I don't know how you felt about it, Al, but I just felt like that just screamed arrogant. Like, oh yeah, we've already got this in the bag at the start of the second half. Basically telling the Texans, we don't think you can stop us, so we're just gonna take the rest of the night off.
Yeah, I talked about it. It was arrogant, and it was kind of disrespectful, and they paid for it because they played a terrible second half, and that led to their downswing. I think their downswing started at halftime of that game.
Yeah, that's exactly when things started to go sour. It's just pride comes before the fall, ladies and gentlemen. Always, it never fails. All right, that's gonna be it. I will comment on one last thing just because I want to be able to make a good joke about it. But Fat Boy Swag 1804 for life says he can't wait when we get a new QB. You did. You got a brand new Tua Tagovailoa. That's your new quarterback. You're welcome.
Yeah, so that's not a Dolphin fan.
Probably not. But anyway, that's going to be it for us. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you all next week after, hopefully, we will be celebrating a Victory Tuesday after the Dolphins beat the Green Bay Packers. Alf, thank you very much for joining me. And once again, if you haven't already done it, make sure that you go to prizepicks.com to use the promo code 5. That's FIVE. They will match up to $100 on your initial deposit. They'll also, by the way, this is something I did not mention previously, but if for whatever reason, a player that you went ahead and you bet on and that person ends up getting sick or does not get to be played because it's inactive for whatever reason, Prize Picks is not going to punish you for it. They will go ahead and remove that from your prop so that way you can continue to play as if nothing had happened. So that's something that they give you, that courtesy on top of all the promos that they give you, on top of all the awesome stuff that they're going to do for you. So with all that said, make sure you go over there, use the promo code 5. Once again, that's FIVE. They will match up to $100 on your initial deposit, and you can end up winning some big time bucks. All right. In any case, let's go ahead and finish this up here. I'm trying to get back here. All right. So one last thing. Mr. Swag, if you love Miami, listen, maybe you don't like Tua yet, but trust me, if you haven't fallen in love with him yet, eventually you will. Eventually, everybody will. Even Stephen A. Smith came out and said that he's been humbled and that the Dolphins can beat anybody. And you would think that Stephen A. would never, ever, ever admit that. Once we get Skip, that means it's all over.
So, you're never gonna get Skip.
I thought we'd never get Stephen A.
No, you're never gonna get Skip, and you're never gonna get Colin Cowherd. These people they're entrenched, and Skip Bayless is never moving off of his position. He's already changed his position twice. Because remember last year he said that Tua was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year he's like, you know what I mean? So no, Skip still thinks that Baker Mayfield's good.
Oh yeah. How'd that go for the Rams last night? So I'm thinking that they're thinking, oh well, maybe if Matthew Stafford, they can have a little QB competition. Stafford will beat Mayfield into the ground. Okay. But I digress. That's it for today. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you all next week.